Gus, I'm back for another movie review, and this time I'm reviewing 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple, released in 2026 and directed by Nia Costa. And yeah, I quite enjoyed this one. For those who don't know, this is the sequel to 28 Years Later, and that film is also the sequel to two other films. And it's kind of one of my criticisms is that the chronology can be a bit confusing. You know, there's 28 years later, oh, it's 28 days later, 28 weeks later, no, 28 months later, then 28 years later. Now there's this one. Um, and yeah, I think maybe also for future reference, maybe they should have put part two or something like that. But anyway, it's a zombie movie for those who don't know, as are all the other ones. And yeah, it's a pretty good zombie movie, but it kind of de-emphasizes the actual zombies, and it's more about how the people have kind of coped and adapted uh, from the outbreak and kind of the collapse of society. And it still follows the kind of ongoing adventure of Spike from the last movie, played by Alfie Williams. It also stars Ralph Fiennes, who I also recently learned is called Ralph and not Ray. But anyway, and Jack O'Connell is also in the movie. And so those two characters are kind of the highlights of the movie. They kind of Jack O'Connell plays plays a character called Sir Jimmy Crystal, who's the leader of the Jimmy gang, who was featured at the end of the last movie, and kind of most of the movie is following this gang, kind of how they operate, and it's yeah, it's quite interesting just to see how they kind of interact with each other and everyone else. They're yeah, without going into spoilers, it's quite interesting and also quite brutal. So, like, if you're quite squeamish, this movie might not be for you. But, you know, I feel like if you're into zombie movies, you're probably quite used to that kind of stuff. Um, Also, kind of fleshes out the character of Dr. Kelson, who was also featured in the last movie. So, yeah, I would say the first, well, 28 years later was more of an adventure, kind of set up the universe and the different zombies. You know, you have the like the slow zombies, the fast zombies, and the alphas were kind of like kind of the brutish, big brutish zombies, and yeah, it kind of goes into a bit of the science of things. And you know, I'm kind of skirting around spoilers, but I will say it was easy to follow. The audio description was good. It was the music was also good. Both the original score and the licensed music was used well. I've featured some of it in my radio show, and yeah, I'm just thinking about what else to say. Like in terms of how I would rank this compared to the other movies in the series, I'd say I would. I think I prefer 28 Weeks Later, but I'd say it's probably better than the last movie, the last 28 years later, and maybe even the original movie. But it's been a long time since I've watched that one. Um, and yeah, uh, all right, I'm going to try something different now and go into spoilers. So I would recommend this if you are a fan of zombie movies and if you like the last one. Um, Maybe not if you want something uh, drastically different from other zombie movies. It does kind of follow, it's kind of in that vein. Um, but yeah, anyway, spoilers. Um, so this movie, I would say, kind of, you know, it's the middle of a trilogy. So it sets up a sequel, which does well, it has Killian Murphy in basically. He's at the end. He's the tease, and personally, like I said before, like I barely remember the first movie. I don't remember his character being very interesting. I remember him gouging out the eyes of one of the Doctor Who's, which was one of the more memorable moments from that movie. Um, but yeah, I'm kind of interested to see where things go. And one of the things I did find quite interesting about um, this latest movie is kind of how it's like society, because the zombie outbreak happened in the 90s. Um, kind of pop culture has kind of stopped. It's kind of like like it's kind of stuck in the 90s. They talk about things like the Teletubbies and things like that, and obviously Jimmy Savile, and obviously they haven't really discovered what all the controversy with him, and that's not really addressed in the movie. But yeah, it kind of reminded me a bit of the show Fallout, or also the game series Fallout, which has had like a nuclear apocalypse, and in the kind of 40s, and society kind of is still kind of stuck in the 40s, but has like this kind of alternate take on that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'm also thinking where I'd rank this in terms of like zombie movies in general. Um, I think I might. I think I preferred 28 Weeks Later, and I also preferred the Dawn of the Dead remake. I think mostly because it kind of covers the actual outbreak, and I find that stuff a bit more interesting than the kind of post-apocalyptic stuff, which is a bit, I'm not going to say done to death, but it is definitely more common these days. But I did prefer it to other zombie movies. Like I did like Planet Terror and Zombieland and Shaun of the Dead and that kind of stuff. But I think I preferred this movie to those. And yeah, I think that's everything I have to say about 28 years later, the Bone Temple. I hope, I was going to say, I hope the name kind of the next one makes it easier for people jumping in maybe halfway through, but it probably won't. But anyway, that's it for me. Hope you've enjoyed me rambling. Bye.